goes quick as hell. People talking shit about FIFA. Anyone see it? Oh, here we go. Yep, we live. Hey, Rashawn, FIFO's on the way. He's going to be about 10, 15 minutes late. He's on Cuban people time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the place where sports opinions collide, dead in sports. I'm your host, Kenneth B. Inge. Joining me, we got Nikki Duce.
What's going on? New Mike Nick. I've been listening to y'all been telling me I sound like trash or shit. I'm gonna record a mixtape after this too.
All right, we got Shelton J.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Chilling. BZ430.
What up, though?
And FIFO 24/7, as I mentioned earlier, will be on the way in a few minutes. So
change your name, man.
Huh?
Change your name on the.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't mention, but I want to say now that this episode will be focusing on the NFL draft. For those of you that were with us Thursday, was it Friday?
It was Thursday night.
Thursday. Yeah. Friday. Okay. Yeah. So Thursday we recapped the first round live of the NFL draft. So obviously there were 6 more rounds after that, and we're here to discuss some of those picks, the draft overall, and then we'll get into the Last Dance episodes 3 and 4 recap. So all right, let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so NFL draft recap.
You went out, Nick. Nick, you went out.
Microphone Nick, what the fuck is going on?
New Mike Nick.
New Mike Nick. What is up? You talking and
Nick can't hear you at all.
We can't hear you at all, brother.
Nick.
Shouldn't have got that cheap shit.
It's the internet. My bad.
Oh, okay.
I was going to ask y'all, as far as the first round or even just in general for each franchise, was there a team that kind of just stood out to you as far as their picks?
Yes. I think the Dallas Cowboys' first round pick was incredible. CeeDee Lamb is going to be a monster, and to pair him with Amari Cooper is going to be incredible for me. I think that he was one of my favorite players coming into the draft. And for them to get him, I think they got him at 17, was ridiculous. I didn't see that happen. Also, the Cardinals with Simmons, they got a steal too. So you got 2 monsters in the first round, one on offense, one on defense. And I think those guys are going to be some stars down the stretch.
What about the rest of their selections for those teams? Or did you pay attention to that?
I did. Let me look back at Dallas for a second.
Because for me, I was going to say for me, I would say that, like, I really did like Arizona's draft in total. Because, like you mentioned, they got Simmons, which I really wanted the Giants to get, but they went offensive tackle, which I can't really argue against. But if you look at what else they did as far as they went offensive line in the third round, because remember they gave up their second round pick for Hopkins.
Right.
That's another addition to the team. And then they also they went defensive tackle, linebacker. They really went defensive heavy, and then they ended the draft on a running back. I obviously replaced maybe David Johnson, but I really like their draft, and I like the talent they surrounded Kyler Murray.
I do too. Benjamin, actually, his 7th-round draft pick was one of my favorite running backs in college. Rather, I watched him at Arizona State a couple games. He was a beast in college. I guess his numbers don't line up, but as far as his playing ability, that guy could push the rock in college. He was a really good running back in college. As far as Dallas, I like the 2nd-round pick too because they got Diggs in the 2nd round, the corner from Alabama, Stephon Diggs' brother, and he was a solid corner. He played a little safety too.
Yeah, you were talking about him that night.
Yeah. So I think that Dallas had a hell of a draft. So did Miami. I like what Miami did too. With just about all their picks, and they had a ton of picks. Plus, they got Matt Breida. Matt Breida may have a breakout year this year. He was pushing that rock in San Francisco. He had a lot of other backs to share the ball with. I think he ended up with like 600 yards. But to pick him up for a 5th-round pick, they won.
Do you think that was talent or scheme?
What's that for Matt Breida?
For Breida, yeah, and when he was with the Niners.
A little bit of both. I like what he did, and I think with Ballage still there, that's a nice little thunder and lightning type punch type thing because he was quick before he got hurt. So I think Breida gonna be all right.
Yeah, I just wonder if he'll be able to replicate what he did in Miami, not being in that scheme that Shanahan called on the court on the field.
Yeah.
Because we've seen Kenyon Drake there, and we've seen Ballage, who I think his longest run last year was like 8 yards out of 70 some carries or more, which is not good. But we'll see. He has the talent, but I think you have to line that up with what the coach is going to call. So.
Right. And we'll see. Hopefully, with like I said, with both of them there, and they shored up the offensive line a little bit. Hopefully, that'll help out. Plus the scheme, and I hope that they scheme for him and make some things happen with him. You just need balance for short yardage, but hopefully, Breida with his speed can make some things happen. I don't think Drake had enough time in this system with the new coaching staff to say whether they could have used him correctly or not, and maybe they would have taken something from the playbook from San Francisco for Breida and incorporate it into the offense. So we'll see what happens.
What about you, Ken? What did you thought?
Remind me of the question one more time. I'm gonna put some.
As far as like a team that stood out to you, as far as their overall draft, or even just a round that you really like.
I gotta go with Tampa Bay, man. They're all in on Brady. And it was really interesting to watch Arians and all of them make all of these moves to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. To get a tackle, to move up to get a tackle actually. So I thought what they did was really interesting overall. If I had to think of another team. I had one, but I can't remember what it was. But I'll pass it to B. You can come back to me.
To be really honest, I wasn't following the draft closely like that. At the time of the draft, I was in the middle of recording Dead End Gaming. You can check that out wherever you get your podcast. And also follow us on Twitch, Dead End Gaming ATL. But only thing I really was plugged in, of course, was who Detroit Lions was getting. I had like a ticker. I had a ticker alert on my phone where every time the Lions had a draft, I would see who they drafted, who they got at their respective picks. And you had to get what's it, Jeff Okada from
Okuda.
Yeah. He was clearly the maybe the best player in a position that we needed, of course, because Sly is gone. So we had to kind of fill that position. Sly was our shutdown corner. So you had to refill that spot. I'm hoping Swift. Georgia Georgia is always known for running back school. They always produce solid running backs that go into pros and have pretty good, pro years, pro career. So I'm glad we got DeAndre Swift because I think he was coming off an injury. Either he was injured this past year or the year before. He had a season-ending injury, I believe, but he was their horse. And like, I think if he can come in Detroit and be that guy for us, man, like that would be dope as hell. I'm glad picks 75 and 121, rounds 3 and 4. I'm glad we went offensive line heavy because we definitely needed offensive lineman. I would have been fine if our maybe first round or maybe not 3. You probably can't pick an O-line at 3 unless you just got a stud. But like in the second round, I would have been happy if we would have picked the O-line in the second round because I was really saying that's what we need. We need to really rebuild and restructure that offensive line because Matthew Stafford was getting banged up too much and he was not getting protected. So I'm glad we went O-line. And of course, like, the quiet ones, we got my man Jason Huntley. I remember seeing him a few times in New Mexico State. So he might be a good flex back to have. And then we went defensive tackle with our last picks for Utah, John Pasini or whatever his name, John something. And then Jason Cornell from Ohio State. And we picked somebody else. Yeah, we went Ohio State heavy in this draft because even one of the offensive linemen that we picked up, I think he was a guard. He's from Ohio State. So yeah, man, we went heavy with Ohio State. I don't know much about Wisconsin. Cortez Simphus from Wisconsin. I don't really know much about him. I saw we drafted him. He's a wide receiver, but they gave him a B+ in the draft grade, and they gave our 6th round pick John Penicini. They gave him an A-. So yeah, I hope some of these guys pan out to produce for the Lions, man. Especially those offensive linemen, man. The offensive linemen and Swift. That's what I'm looking at because we've been itching for like a really solid running game, man. For the last since our Megatron years, we have been itching for a back. So I feel like hopefully Swift can kind of be that difference maker for us as far as the running game.
He won't.
Hey, it's wishful thinking, Ken. Wishful thinking.
I know, but they've drafted what people have thought were good running backs before and just failed to do anything with them. Now, I don't know if any of the ones in the past were as talented as Swift is. So we'll see.
Johnson was good though, right?
Who?
Yeah, he just can't stay healthy.
Oh, yeah, he had a good rookie year, right?
Yeah, he just can't
and
stay
then
healthy.
He disappeared the next year.
Yeah.
FIFA, what are your thoughts on Miami's draft?
Man, I think Miami did exactly what they were supposed to do. They got Tua, they got an offensive tackle, they got a couple weapons, and got defense. Like I was saying during the draft special, Miami's just one of those teams that need as many bodies with talent as possible. I think that they did that, especially I think at the end of the first, they moved down a couple of times as well and got additional draft picks. So I'm not going to be as detailed as B and tell you all of these players that they drafted by name and all of that, but I just think overall they did what they were supposed to do.
I really like the Bengals draft, and also the Giants, of course. I'm a huge fan of those, but the Giants went heavy on defense and offensive line, which I'm cool with, especially when you got to think about the young guy, Daniel Jones, and we got Saquon still, and our defense needs secondary help, so that's what we got a lot of that. And then the Bengals, they got a lot of good linebacker depth, and we got a couple steals, I believe, especially the wide receiver from Clemson, how he fell into the second round. I was surprised by that. Which leads me to my next question as far as with the teams that we maybe overdrafted a player or maybe made just a weird pick. Was there any other team for y'all that y'all were like questioning, like, why the hell did you draft this player? Because I know for me it was definitely the Eagles.
Hold up, Nick, because you wasn't happy during draft day about that old lineman now.
Hello,
I wanted Simmons, but at the same time, we need help on the offensive line. Yeah, Ken, we can still hear you. But people here, like you were saying, I'm never that displeased when a team drafts an offensive lineman, especially if they're really highly rated. Just for the fact that you always need depth at that position, just like you do on the defensive line, just like you do at a linebacker. So I didn't want him at that slot, but at the same time, with the way the rest of the draft went, it made sense because I think Gettleman wants to really compete this upcoming season and not really just continue to build on for the next couple of years.
Hey, Nick, how you feel about them getting? You feel like they didn't mess up that first pick, that number 1 overall pick?
Oh, the Bengals? Nah, that was a no-brainer. And like looking at everybody's responses to that pick, everybody was like that. They don't even grade it because it was just like a no-brainer. Like they didn't even give him really an A or anything because it was just like he's the best quarterback prospect in the draft, at least for right now. Time will tell. But I think Burrow is I'm excited to see what he does. I'm more excited about Zach Taylor and how he will scheme around him. I like the wide receiver pickup from the second round just for the fact that I've heard that they've been working out before the whole pandemic, training together and doing passing drills together. And along with, I think TJ Houston-Zada has been watching them as well and helping out. So I really like that connection. Obviously, I think insurance for if AJ ever goes down again or if he leaves after this year, which most likely he will, it gives us that security and insurance that we have another big guy a young guy on a rookie deal that can go out and get it.
Look, I'm not wishing no ill will on Joe Burrow, but I think he's going to struggle, especially year 1.
I mean, I'm expecting 6-5 wins.
So 5-11, 6-10.
Yeah, 6-10, 5-11, something that shows that we've increased. We got too much talent at multiple positions to not win some games, especially now that I feel like the AFC has kind of gotten a little dispersed a little bit. It's a lot top heavy. It's just, to me, it's just the Chiefs, the Ravens. That's pretty much it. Maybe
Do you feel like how you feel about like the coaching staff as far as putting these players in position to kind of take somewhat of a step forward?
I think Zach Taylor. It's kind of hard to grade his first year because he was in a new. His resume doesn't really back up as far as his experience. So I'm hoping he learned a lot from last season and this season. I really like what they did in the draft because they did address some needs. But I want to see how he schemes around that. I want to see what he's learned from Sean McVay or what he's learned from just period throughout his coaching tenure to see what he does because he has the talent. And that was the big issue with Marvin Lewis. It was like the Bengals are good at getting talent, but can they scheme around it? And I think a young guy like Zach Taylor, I'm just leaning into that optimism of he can do something. But going back to my other point as far as just picks that didn't make sense, like what is y'all thoughts about Jalen Hurts going to the Eagles?
And they've been catching a lot of flack about that, but to me, if you think about using him like Taysom Hill, it makes sense. I don't like it. I don't like him there. But if you're taking the Saints approach, then it makes sense. Also, you do want somebody that's kind of game ready in case Carson Wentz goes down again too. So I think that he's close to being that. You know what I'm saying?
But that really in the draft, that's the second round pick.
Yeah, you know what this is? This is Al Horford to Joel Embiid. And as a GM, you got to look at your star player and be like, okay, our star player is somewhat injury prone. And the odds are that they're going to get injured again this season. And if we're still going to be competitive, how do we manage that? And Jalen Hurts is the way you manage that. Also, it gives you another offensive dynamic. Like Shelton said, using them like Taysom Hill, I don't think they'll use Jalen Hurts at wide receiver as much, but having special packages, giving defenses different looks because of the wheels that Jalen Hurts has, that opens up the playbook even more already with a dynamic offensive squad that they already have. And we've seen in the past, Carson Wentz is a pretty athletic quarterback too. You could put him out at wide receiver, run another Philly special, throw another wrinkle into that. So I like it. I don't love it because obviously you would want to see Jalen Hurts eventually have his own team, progress, and do those. Just the progression, the natural progression of a quarterback. But at the end of the day, he's with a good organization that I think is going to use him the right way.
I just think that there were 2 playoff teams that won the division that drafted quarterbacks this year that I felt didn't need to. That's Green Bay and that's the Eagles. The Eagles, as we know, last season, horrible wide receiver depth. They once Deshaun, and whoever else went down, you saw they had a lack of that. Now they did try to address it with their first round pick, but I honestly would have took the guy that the Bengals took, T. Higgins from Clemson, over that dude. And then in the second round, you would think they would just get more depth offensively, but they get a quarterback or at least get an offensive lineman to protect Carson because he's injury prone. So that's why I disagree with that. Because to me, it's like you're a playoff team. You should be pushing the envelope forward as far as being competitive, not thinking about insurance for a situation that may or may not happen. Now, with Carson Wentz, it's more likely that it could happen, but Cam is still out there. Who else is still out there? There's a lot of QBs that's still out there.
They cost a lot more.
Yep.
They cost more and they come with expectation. If you bring in Cam,
Jalen does it?
Jalen's a
hell no.
Carson Wentz is a Super Bowl champion, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like Carson Wentz is an MVP.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Carson Wentz is the part of that team.
Carson Wentz got them to the point where Nick Foles just had to win a couple games. But at the end of the day, when you bring in big names like Cam Newton, now there comes the expectation, and now there becomes a QB rivalry. And let's be honest, Cam Newton, in terms of the physicality and just the running ability, isn't the same. So you're getting a used quarterback with questionable injury history, just like your starting quarterback. Now you're
what about Jameis?
Hurts, huh?
What about Jameis?
Jameis is turnover prone.
This is a backup situation. I'm just thinking about the backup situation.
But at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts, there's no questions that arise. Carson Wentz is the starter. You come in situationally, and Carson Wentz gets hurt.
Nobody is expecting Jalen Hurts to take that job or even compete for the job or anything like that. You only see him when Wentz get hurt. I didn't like the pick myself, but as I look on the board of who all went after him, I didn't really see much that they could use outside of J.K. Dobbins. That probably would have been a pretty good pick for them, but I feel that they felt that Jalen was a good price to pay at that spot. So, but unlike Green Bay, nobody's looking at Jalen Hurts as next up.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Love is viewed as next up, so you have way more conversations about Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers than Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz. I don't like the pick, but I get it.
But why is that? Because Jalen is the better prospect between Jordan Love and
he's not.
No, he's not. See, the thing about it is Jalen is more NFL ready, and he's also really durable. So you go in a situation where you need a quarterback to play right away. Jordan Love is not looking to play right away. With Jalen, you may need him this year. Well, odds are you're going to need him this year at some point. And he was probably better than what was left over as far as the free agent pool goes, and the money would be right to get him there. So I think also he could be a diamond in the rough. They really don't know with him. He could be the one. But at the same time, it's just good insurance for Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz goes down, you can plug and play Jalen. At the same time, if he's healthy, Jalen is a monster. That dude is strong too. So you can put him in all kind of packages like Taysom because he's athletic and he's strong and durable. So you can stick him out there and let him play and run special packages for him. Now, I guarantee he's going to play.
So y'all don't think that Jalen can push Carson as far as the starting job eventually drop?
Hell no.
Not right now. No.
That thought had never even crossed my mind.
I'll say this. If Carson goes down again this year, then it may be time to look at making other moves and doing different things like that. But no, he's not. They're not bringing him in there to take his job.
I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying he could eventually, right?
No.
I would say, you know what? I look at Jalen kind of like how Russell Wilson was when he came in. You didn't expect him to do much of anything when he got there. Nobody expected him to beat out Matt Flynn, for example. I think Jalen is that type of player. Like I said, I watched him all year, and the dude is impressive to me. But I do think he's about a year away from being that person.
But Shelton, wouldn't you say Oklahoma kind of inflated those numbers as opposed to when he played in Alabama? Like, to me, when he was in Alabama, he was run first, throw second, guys were wide open. And he was a fringe NFL draft prospect.
Yes.
Going to Oklahoma, he was able to pass a little bit more. Maybe the offense helped with that. And I think that pushed him up into, like, the second, possibly third round.
It did. It did. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It did. I like I said, watching him this year, you know, the most impressive thing was his decision making, though, and whatever needed to be done was what he was going to do. Now, what he was turnover prone, though. He fumbled a few times, and I was like, he was holding that kind of loosey goosey a little bit. But when they needed a play, that boy made a play, and to get the ball to CD like he did this year, knowing that CD was going to get the ball and getting double and triple teamed and still making it the way they got it to him. And he was throwing the ball much. It didn't look like the same player that was at Alabama at all to me. So I was impressed with him. He's grown, and I don't see him stopping working. And he got the tools to get there. It's just a matter of just him working a little bit harder to get where.
It's a lot easier to beat out Matt Flynn than it is to beat out Carson Wentz. We're talking about a guy that was MVP, 2 years ago, and without his performance that season, Nick Foles isn't set up to come in and back clean up. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a guy that had a bunch of no-name practice squad players that he was throwing to, and eventually ended up getting into the playoffs over Dallas, who had way more talent than the Eagles did all season long, and they didn't even make the playoffs. So if a guy's able to, we give Brady credit for, picking his players up and elevating the guys around him and basically doing it himself. Carson Wentz deserves that credit as well because he didn't have a lot to work with, and they still made the playoffs. Granted, he got hurt, but that's where Jalen Hurts, could come in and help in the playoffs versus whoever they brought in last year in the playoffs.
It's just a matter of that guy staying healthy, though. Carson Wentz, he that dude's soft, man. He stay hurt. So we just have to see if he can stay healthy, then he'll keep his job. If he doesn't, then he need to be looking over his shoulder.
So with that being said, what team do you guys think that made the playoffs last season or who did make the playoffs last season improved enough to be a contender this year?
Dallas, of course, but
I would agree with Dallas. I also would. I also think that the Ravens made a lot of good picks to kind of reupholster their offense, get a little younger. They even drafted a couple wide receivers. I think they're going to open up the offense a lot more. I think you're still going to see Lamar run, but I think you're going to see him throw a lot more, kind of like that progression you saw for Russell Wilson early on, like you mentioned, Shelton. I think they're going to open up the offense a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was hard to have a bad draft in this draft because there's so many players out there, and most of your teams had, like, the rich got richer with Baltimore because J.K. Dobbins, Patrick Queen is an awesome linebacker who could have went higher in any other draft if he'd been in another draft. This just happened to be a year that was loaded. J.K. Dobbins he's gonna be a monster, and he's gonna learn from Mark Ingram. So, you know what I'm saying? You won with that. You know what I'm saying? J.K. Dobbins was a first-round pick if you look at him and what he brings to the table. So
I'll go with Cleveland. I think they managed to hopefully find some stability on the line. They addressed areas of weakness. They already had the offense. Defense was pretty good or good enough. They just needed to assess, or beef up the line, and I think they did that. So I think it's still going to be hard to beat out Pittsburgh with Big Ben coming back, and they drafted a lot of need and depth as well, guys that probably won't be names that anybody know because I don't know who the hell the players are that they drafted, but that's where coaching come into play, and these guys will be able to contribute to the team of the Steelers versus making a name for themselves unless they just elite or become stars. So I like them. I think they'll should win the division, but I like what Cleveland did. Now can Stefanski bring it all together?
I think to me the obvious choice is Tampa Bay. You add, even though he's 49, you know what I'm saying, him and Ken went to high school together. You add Tom Brady to the roster, you automatically are positioned to make a playoff run. They added Gronkowski already with the plethora of weapons. First round, they went offensive tackle. They also traded. I sent y'all the trade in the group me. I can't remember, but they
for Trent Williams.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the obvious choice is Tampa Bay, but I'm gonna pick another team in that division too. I think they make it in as a wild card. I think the Falcons, man. And I know I've been a homer for a little bit now, but with an offense that houses all first-round picks, including all linemen, that offense needs to produce. It needs to be a top 5 offense in the NFL, and I think they can be. I think you have arguably the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver. You have a quarterback that is above the fold, top 10, top 15. Now the question is running back. Does Todd Gurley have enough in the tank to contribute to this team? And the defense just needs to stay healthy. I think they've taken catastrophic hits on the defensive end of the ball year after year after year. Obviously, we know it's part of the game, but part of the game is be out 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you come back. Not part of the game is you're out for the entire season with multiple injuries. So I think that if they can mitigate some of those injuries, have injuries that they can come back from, I think that they should definitely be a wild card team in the NFL.
Ken, wasn't it you that put in the chat? You was like, "What the hell is Atlanta doing draft-wise?"
I don't know, and I haven't been able to find much information on it. Their moves. I mean, they obviously have a quarterback. They got a running back, so I guess maybe they were just, adding pieces, adding depth. I think FIFO highlighted on the NFL draft special the secondary needed help as well, so that's why they went with the first round pick that they did. But it was just confusing, and I guess with the players on the board, when you get into the 2nd through 7 rounds. Sometimes they're going to, not sometimes, a lot of the times they're going to draft players that you haven't even heard of before. So that's where the scouts come into play, and that's when knowing what the organization needs comes into play as well. It just felt somewhat disjointed because it didn't feel like they had a clear direction in mind when it came to the draft. So we'll see what they say from here.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay. I feel like Tampa Bay is going to be like that team, like the Eagles had, I believe in 2012 or 2010, where they had all the talent in the world, and nothing really happened. I think there was another team like that too. I just feel like there's so much hype on an old ass Gronkowski who was doing WWE 2 weeks ago, and Brady, who's never been out the AFC, let alone the AFC East. Now he's going to a division where the Saints loaded up on linebacker and defensive end, so that's going to be tough for him to get through. And then people like you mentioned, as far as the Falcons going defensive heavy this draft too, I think we need to pump the brakes on Tampa Bay.
I think you need to stop being so disrespectful because first and foremost, you can't count Brady out. He's proven that time and time and again since the man left Michigan. So even though obviously he's as old as Moses right now trying to part the Red Sea, he's still a viable commodity. He's not young Brady, but he's not just a bump on the log. Like this man, obviously, first and foremost, he's top 3 in the league of reading defenses, getting the ball out of his hand, and not committing turnovers. If Jameis Winston could throw for 5,100 yards, Tom Brady can throw for over 4,000 in that offense. He could throw.
I'm gonna tell you this. What was the last image you have of Brady in the playing football? It's a pick. And between Bruce Arians,
that doesn't matter because the situation isn't the same. The situation is not the same.
It's not the same. But he was in a better situation.
But we knew New England was devoid of talent on the outside. They didn't have no tight end. They didn't have no real outside wide receivers. They didn't have what you need for Brady to be successful in the game.
But that was not their fault. Remember, they had AB. AB ended up doing some dumb shit off the field. They had Josh Gordon. He ended up doing some dumb shit off the field, or he just couldn't get his mind right. Like, the talent was there. Like, if everything stayed the same, we probably would have been in the Super Bowl and they would have won.
Let me ask you this, Nick. Is Bruce Arians an offensive guru head coach? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Is Tom Brady a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Is Gronkowski a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Are the other wide receivers on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers arguably the best wide receiver crops in the NFL?
Yes. As far as 1-2 punch.
Have they bolstered the offensive line?
They drafted the offensive line. Yes, they drafted the offensive line.
That's it.
So what does that mean? I'm asking you, what does that mean to you? What do you want me down? What are you trying to say?
What I'm saying is that they're going to compete. They're going to compete. They're going to be one of the top teams in the NFL to beat. I'm not saying that the championship will beat them.
The only thing that's going to hurt them is the fact that this pandemic has kept everybody from working out. And Tom Brady's used to getting in time with his guys to get timing right and all that kind of stuff. He's missing out on some of the time that he would normally take to develop his relationships with his receivers. That's the only thing that can hurt them. Other than that, I don't see why, like you said, I don't see why they're not one of the top teams in the NFL, because they are.
All right.
Wait, hold on, Nick, because we didn't even talk about the other side of the ball. 2 years ago, before Jameis's breakout season, they were dead last in defense. Last year, they jumped up to number 10, and that was a young defense. And they just added to that. Look, I'm not saying that it's going to be the best team in the NFL. All I'm saying is they are legitimately going to compete for the Lombardi Trophy. They are going to be one of the toughest teams to beat.
And I just disagree with you on that. I think them making the playoffs will mean a lot. I'm not saying I'll be shocked if they made the playoffs, but that will mean a lot to me because I don't see them over. Like, you got the Saints in that division as well, and you still got the Falcons, who, like you said, both teams are going to be top 10, maybe even top 8 in offense. And then the Saints have a good defense, and we don't know what the Falcons' defense will be because they haven't been healthy for the last 2 seasons. So that's something that I know for. Like, I don't know what to expect with Tampa Bay. It's just a lot of unknowns.
To me, the Falcons are a bigger question mark just because, you can't trust Georgia teams. I feel New Orleans is on the brink of the rebuild. They're prolonging it because Drew Brees is just that damn good, and Sean Payton is that damn good. But to me, they're closer to the end of their line than Tampa Bay is right now.
Yeah, but Brady and Brees are at the same, closer to their end of the line too.
Yeah, but if you look at everything around them, Brady has more than Brees right now.
We'll see.
I've been thinking about this, and it's going to be really interesting to watch play out because Brady got everything. I mean, you can't deny that. So I think if they falter, if they fail on any level, whether it's making it to the wild card or the second round or whatever, it's going to be viewed as a failure. Who's going to get blamed for that? Is it going to be Bruce Arians? Is it going to be Brady? Is it going to be the defense? Is it going to be Byron Leftwich? So it's going to be interesting to watch those storylines. But we do know that they got better with experience at that position, and that was huge for them. My thing about the Saints, and while everybody's jumping on their bandwagon, is we've seen the same story play out year after year after year. Whether it's bad luck, whether it's a bad call or whatever it is, they get hyped up and they always fail to go far, and they never get criticized for it. And now they got somebody in the league that could legit take that spot from them because he knows how to close. As much as I distaste the well, I have my thing with Brady, but I can't knock him for that, for what he does on the field. And he'll be able to do something that Breeze hasn't been able to do. And, we'll see how it plays out. But who gets the blame for it when it all goes bad? If it all goes bad, we'll see. But I have no confidence in the Saints the way a lot of people do.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, I've been right on that for the last 2 years.
They have been getting a lot of bad calls, though. Even last year with that Kirk Cousins to Rudolph, that was a questionable call. That
when you lose to Kirk Cousins, bro, not only did you lose to Kirk Cousins, you were trailing by 10 in the fourth quarter. And you get credit for the comeback. But dang, bro, you Drew Brees. Why are you even in that situation? You Sean Payton. Why are you in that situation? Drew Brees played like shit. He threw for 200 yards in that game?
That's a Mike Zimmer defense, though.
See? This is an excuse.
I'm just saying, it's not like he's not going against Kirk Cousins. He's going against Mike Zimmer.
He's an elite quarterback. Sean Payton and Drew Brees should perform way better than that.
We'll see. I can't wait for the season to start. Any last thoughts on the draft? B, you got any thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, like I said, I wasn't really homed in on the draft this year. So, I mean, like I said, just aside from my thoughts about how the Lions did or whatever, that's pretty much about it.
It's going to be fun. Not fun, because a lot of people are going to lose jobs, but it's always interesting to me. Every year, there's a lot of hype for the draft and all these players, and 80% won't be in the league in 2 years?
Right. That is so true, Ken.
Yeah.
I was also, not even that. 80% of the girlfriends that the draftees got ain't gonna be there after this season. So we're gonna see a lot of changes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's hop into one of the other highly discussed things that happened this weekend. Obviously, the Last Dance, the third and fourth episode premiered last night. It focused mostly on Dennis Rodman and B's favorite sports team of the 80s, 90s, the Detroit Pistons in the bad boy era. What were y'all thoughts of just the third and fourth episode?
Let's also, before we get into that, before we close out, let's circle back and talk about the GM hiring that the Bulls did. I think it was a black guy, brother. Dio just asked us about it in the chat, so I definitely want to make sure we hit that as well. Third and fourth episode. So I watched them this morning. I remember them talking about Dennis Rodman during the Bad Boys documentary, man, and basketball definitely saved that brother's life. Gave him an opportunity that he otherwise wouldn't have happened. He had his head on straight in certain areas, knowing not to get involved with, the drugs and stuff like that. But, to see him go from where he was to basically like a megastar was great. And I think that was a great story, man. But he was troubled. And we saw that, when he, sounded like he was contemplating suicide because basketball didn't give him everything that he needed when it came to his mental health. But he was right, fit for the Bulls, and it wasn't a lot of new information outside of the vacation.
Right, that was the only thing that was pretty much new.
Yeah, so outside of that, which I thought was interesting, and maybe we'll talk about that too. But I found the field thing really interesting myself because I thought that, him going from being a second-round pick to a role player to being infatuated with like Indians, Native American culture and stuff like that. Like Dennis Rodman and him were the perfect pairing because Phil was a hippie. So he got with the perfect person that understood his mentality because Phil somewhat was an outsider himself. And also how Pippen and Jordan and the Bulls team just really allowed Rodman to be who he is as long as he did his job. And they allowed him to breathe. And I thought that was really, really dope, man. We are so into every single aspect of these players' lives now more than ever. And seeing Dennis Rodman and MJ, who got the first Kevin Durant treatment when they were talking about his retirement, they asked him over and over again, to see Dennis get fed up with the media and tired of that and how they just want to play the game. I love hearing because we're so invasive, or the media is so invasive. But overall, I thought it was good, and I found the Detroit stuff even more riveting. But I'll close my thoughts with that.
Yeah, for me, Dennis Rodman, I think that the main thing that he said that really made you pause and think about his impact was when he said, obviously, Scotty and Michael are number one and number two, but without him, they don't win a championship. And you saw it when Horace Grant moved on. They didn't have Dennis at the time, and they were losing to those other teams. You saw the impact what Dennis Rodman had and what he meant to that team. Obviously, we always knew that he had a couple screws loose, and I think it always takes. I think this phrase is the juice worth the squeeze, and in Dennis Rodman's case, it was 100%. You're talking about a guy that was dominant defensively, a Hall of Famer, a guy that if he didn't have the individual accolades, probably wouldn't have been a Hall of Famer, but multiple rebounding titles, Defensive Player of the Year, all of these type of things, man. You just saw how valuable that is, especially the way that the Bulls were constructed, and with having, again, alluding to what Ken was saying, with a coach that understands different players. And it shows, I think a lot of it had to do with Phil as well, understanding what buttons to press, when to press them, and understanding how to motivate everybody differently. And I always talk about that, like you can't treat everybody the same. You got to treat people different because you got to understand people, everybody's individual. So I think also the Detroit thing, and obviously we're going to let B go into that, but how instrumental that was in making Michael Jordan who he was, right? Like, because obviously he had all the talent in the world. He had all of the drive and work ethic in the world. But, the fact that he felt he needed to dish punishment as well. That's all because of Detroit. And he became a bigger, stronger version of himself, more calculated, more emotionally controlled, not just him, but the entire team because of that. So without Detroit, there would be no Chicago. And that's, again, why I always say that young players need 3 to 5 years. In the playoffs, you need to get your ass whooped. And that's the prime example. If Detroit didn't whoop Chicago's ass like that, they wouldn't be who they were. And all young teams need to experience what defeat tastes like so that way you can overcome that. And then the championship and all of the accolades, they taste so much better. But, man, amazing documentary.
I will say before Shelton or B go, I did like that they showed that Dennis Rodman's rebounding and defense wasn't an accident. No. Like, he studied that aspect of the game. That was dope.
When he was breaking down how he read the ball where it comes off the rim and stuff, I'm like, yo, that shit. It just makes sense why he was such a rebounding. He was so great at what he did in rebounding the ball, man. Because that shit was, man. He was like, yeah, I know if I come here and it comes this way, then I know, like, I was like, damn, that shit. I never thought rebounding could sound so technical until Dennis Rodman broke that shit down, man. That shit was crazy.
I remember one of my coaches talking to him about that, and he was saying the same thing. It's a science. And it was not just how the ball bounced when you shoot it. It's who was shooting the ball, where the ball was going to bounce to. So that's so in-depth. You know what I'm saying? That's some next level type studying right there. And not only did he study, he was relentless. So you put those two together and you get a monster. And that's exactly what Dennis was. He was a monster.
And who else would like ask for like their friends to just come to a shoot around just to shoot and them just get rebounds? And so he can understand the mathematics, or not even just mathematically, schematically, how balls bounce. Like who really pays attention about rebounding like that? Even though we all know how important it is from an offensive and defensive perspective, but like, yeah, that's just pure. I don't know how to describe it.
It's genius because not only did he just took one element of the game and said, I'm going to dominate. I try to apply that in my daily life. I'm going to dominate in this area. This one area, I'm going to dominate in. No, I ain't going to win the scoring title, but I'm going to win the rebounding title. And I'm going to make a name for myself and make myself valuable by mastering this skill. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. Oh, and I also wanted to add this. I think it was Ken or B that was talking about the music. I was paying attention to the music, and that was actually super dope. How they were playing music of that era of that year. So
that Prince, yeah.
B, I'm gonna let you just go off for a minute. I wanted to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you a question about Dennis Rodman, since it's very interesting that he helped get the Pistons their titles and the Bulls their second three-peat. What were your thoughts of Dennis in between that trade, or when he moved to the team that you probably hated the most?
You talking like Dennis when he was at the Spurs and all that stuff? Like
when he left the Pistons and he ended up with the Bulls.
He went to the Spurs.
Yeah, he went to the Spurs. But then but I'm talking about when he ended up on the Bulls. How did you feel about him then, or did you see the writing on the wall then, like, oh, he's gonna help them win the title?
I mean, I wasn't feeling no type of way because I mean at that point we knew NBA players was gonna, at that point was gonna start moving around, or like once he left us, I wasn't like, oh, please don't go to Chicago, please don't go to Chicago. It wasn't nothing like that, but it was just like, well, he went to San Antonio, it didn't work. He ended up with the Bulls. I mean, I didn't see that three-peat, but I was just like, he gonna definitely help them out. He's gonna definitely help the Bulls out a lot because they were lacking in rebounding when they got him. Especially with Horace Grant going to the Orlando Magic. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't feeling me personally, I wasn't feeling no type of way that he went to Chicago out of all teams. Now, I probably would have if it was in the middle of if it was right after they lost, when we got swept by the Bulls in '91 and he went to Chicago, like that way, it would have been different. I probably would have felt some type of way, but. I mean, it was years later. We were in our rebuild. We had Green Hill, and we had a few horrible years during the '90s with them teal jerseys. So I mean, I didn't feel no type of way with Rodman going to the Bulls, man. I really didn't. I didn't feel no type of way. It didn't bother me.
What did you think about as far as that? The fourth episode mostly discusses the Bad Boy Pistons era, and especially the scenes between Isiah and Mike, as far as from an interview standpoint. What were your thoughts on that?
Oh, I thought that shit was dope. I mean, of course, because this is something that I witnessed, I lived through. Like I saw this shit firsthand. I mean, watching the games and shit live with my dad firsthand and all that shit. Like that's what I mean. Not like actually in the locker room. But yeah, man. I thought it was dope. Of course, and I've said this on Dead End Sports plenty of times, even when we used to record on video. Like it's funny how like everybody is pinning Isiah, is this horrible person, or Detroit Pistons as this horrible team, when the Boston Celtics did the exact same thing. Actually, they left the court before the game was over. They left. Bird, McHale, Isiah grabbed McHale, and then McHale told him, don't just go there and win it, and he dapped him up. But Boston left because they knew it was the passing of the torch. Just like what people said about Jordan had to get through us to be great, we had to get through Boston. Like, when I was watching the Pistons, I knew when we played Boston, I'm like, fuck, we got to deal with that big three. And I knew once we got past Boston, we was the kings of the East at that point. Like, Boston knew it. That's why they walked off the court. Now, the funny thing that people don't fail to mention, too, and my dad brought this to my attention, too, when we was talking about it, like, some years ago or whatever, that, and he still got that paper. My dad still got that paper. But when Chicago Bulls had us down 3-0 in '91, Mike, Phil, Scotty, all of them started talking about how like Detroit Pistons was just bad for the NBA, bad for just bad for basketball and all that stuff. So and I mean I know as a C Detroit, we felt some type of way about that. Like how you going like y'all motherfuckers ain't even won no championship yet. Like we are back-to-back champions. Who the nerve of y'all motherfuckers gonna talk to us talking about how are we for the NBA? So yeah, that walk-off was kind of like justified, like where, not in the grand scheme of things, because I forgot about the way Chicago Bulls was talking shit to us when they had us up 3-0. And so that walk-off was I think if Michael Jordan and Phil wasn't saying what they said to us about that, we probably would have dapped them up or probably would have still walked off the court anyway. But yeah, I just want to put that in perspective. Like that's like some backstory of why they walked off the court against after we got swept by the Bulls. But yeah, man, and people talking about Isaiah still bitter. Jordan clearly said, "I still hate him." Like, so if you saying the Bulls and Isaiah and them some bitches because we still hate Michael Jordan, Jordan said the same thing. So where is that same energy? All I want is the same energy. Like if them gotta have all that. Give me that same energy against Bird when Bird and Celtics and them walked off on the court, you know what I'm saying, before the game was over. And give me that same energy that's saying Zeke is bitter. Jordan, give me that same energy towards Jordan. Say Jordan is bitter too. I just want
right.
If Zeke a bitch, call Jordan a bitch, call Bird and them a bitch too. If I'm concerned. That's all I want.
Hey, you're right, man, and I owe you an apology for that because I was on that same train. When Jordan is bitter like that, I'm like, he's a competitor, and that's how he's supposed to be. But you're right. I looked at Zeke them like some old bitches. I really did. Yeah. So you're right. You're right.
It's like, if you want to call Zeke bitter, call Jordan bitter. Jordan was a punk ass for snitching and not having Isaiah on the dream team. Like, if you want to call just give me the same energy.
It wasn't just MJ though.
I know it wasn't, but he was a part of it though. I mean,
they all were though.
I know. But I'm just saying. But like, if you're calling Zeke bitter, why not? I just want the same energy for everybody else. Give me the same energy for everybody else.
Hey, you think it would have been different if Zeke hadn't froze Jordan out that year? Would everything be different right now?
Did he really? I think that's still. I mean, nothing was really factual about him freezing them out in the All-Star game. I mean, unless Zeke or Jordan or they said it themselves, like, yeah, we was trying to freeze him out. I'm not gonna believe that he say she say. I need some factual for that.
Yeah, I just wonder why. Like for instance, we're gonna take Moneyline Mark, who clearly, I guess maybe he don't like Detroit, or maybe he's a heavy MJ fan. But he didn't say anything about the Celtics when you pointed out the Celtics did the same thing to the Pistons in the chat, by the way. Right, I just want to say that because I know he watched. Yeah. And he probably watched
some hoes. Say Bird some hoes.
Yep.
Say Bird and some hoes.
Yep, exactly. Same energy. So Moneyline Mark, if that's how you feel, then apply that across the board, my brother. And it is what it is. But people are so enamored and so in love with MJ that they overlooked the storyline, and it wasn't always necessarily MJ. It was something about the Pistons.
Think about it like this. Mm-hmm. I don't mean to cut you off. Like,
no, you're good.
Like say if somebody about to beat you and they degrading your name or degrading you and stuff, and then you play the game. I mean, technically, I wouldn't shake. I'm not gonna shake your hand after you didn't talk shit about me after you degrading me and shit. You degrade my character and then saying I'm bad for the NBA. And like that, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I'm gonna say fuck you too. Like, I'm just gonna walk past, and I'm just speaking for me. I'm just speaking for Beasley. Like, if someone was degrading me or degrading my name or whatever, you think I'm gonna shake my hand, be fake, and shake my hand towards you after when we beat Jordan and them? Because he mentioned that Jordan shook our hands, but we wasn't talking down on Jordan. We didn't say Jordan was bad for the game or they doing this or Jordan is selfish or whatever. Zeke gave Jordan props plenty of times saying he's the greatest. Like, we knew what we had to do when we went up against Jordan. So yeah, man, kill all that noise. Kill all that. I ain't about to sit here and laugh and shake, not laugh, but like dap you up after you talking shit game before y'all about to sweep us. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you wouldn't have said nothing to me, and I'm speaking for me personally, if you wouldn't have said nothing about that, I would have dapped you up. Yo, good shit. You whipped our ass. Good luck on your first NBA Finals. Bet. Cool. But you talking shit to me? And degrade my name, fuck that. I ain't letting you. I ain't gonna let that fly.
Yeah, for whatever reason. Well, I won't say for whatever reason, but the Pistons during that time, they were hated, and they literally were the evil guys in the NBA.
No, we were black. That's what we was. Lakers and Celtics was the darlings, the classical music and shit. And then when the Pistons came, we was fucking Public Enemy. That's what we was. And
yeah, but
probably white media or white America wasn't ready for that because they was looking at the darlings of Magic and Bird and here comes Jordan, fly, sky, and then interrupting. John Sally said that shit so perfect in the episode, man. It's like they love every minute of it. Like the fact that you got these darlings of the NBA and then here come bad boys just coming in, disrupting all that shit, winning back-to-back titles. Man.
And the thing and they were talking so much shit like in the documentary. It's like you guys got them when they were on their way down. Like you didn't beat them in their prime. Isaiah had his wrist was messed up. You know, if you watch the Bad Boys documentary, you know there was some other issues going on. You know, with the team at that point. Just like the Detroit Pistons got the Celtics when their run was over. That's just the way it happens.
It's just the way it happens. That's it. That's all, man.
But without them, they wouldn't even be who they were. Jordan wouldn't hit the locker room like that. Pippen, that migraine Pippen had, that was fear. That was anxiety.
That was fear because Rodman was on his ass that entire series.
He was scared of shit. Yeah. And anxiety and stuff manifested stuff physically. He was so physically like mentally taken out of the game and so scared of the moment that he got physically sick with the mic. This Negro talking about he was seeing double on the field. What the hell are you talking about? You seeing 10 players on the court right now that's wearing a Pistons uniform.
Did you see Jordan's face even till this day? He was like, you could tell he was like, man, that was some bullshit. Like, he was like, he just said he was scared. Because you see, when they was in the huddle, Jordan was like, where's Scotty and the other dude, BJ? He was like, where's Scotty and BJ? Scotty was so scared. He was staying in the locker room to the last minute. And I think that they also put that in there to kind of, again, prop up Jordan. Like, I think Jordan's mindset is like, we would have won that game 7 if Scotty wasn't scared.
He felt that way, yeah. He felt that way. And Mr. G Nugget, you're right, man. The Celtics were dirty as shit. But the media, the basketball wasn't really covered a lot the way it was when Jordan was on the come up because the game was growing at the time. But yo, them motherfuckers were dirty too. That's why I didn't like them because
75 to 80. Ken, y'all can attest to this. 75 to 80% of the teams was physical and dirty. That's the way the game was played. Like the only reason why the Pistons was spotlighted is because when the media called us bad boys, we were like, all right, fuck it. That's what we are. We are the bad boys. Okay, we just lived up to the name. And then and then the media just panned it. Okay, bad boys. It's like Detroit was the only team that played physical in the 80s. Milwaukee, shit, even Boston. Like Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish, y'all ain't gonna say shit about how fucking physical they used to play? You kidding me? I said Milwaukee already. Portland was physical as hell. Fucking Kevin Duckworth and Buck Williams. Come on, man, kill that noise. Bulls even had Charles Oakley. He was like the enforcer. He was a physical guy.
Yeah.
But nobody said nothing about that. Everybody pointed at Pistons. Everybody, Pistons the only physical team in the NBA. Bullshit. That whole era was physical, man. You had to be physical. The Philadelphia 76ers, they was physical as hell. Like, man, come on.
The Knicks became really physical. The Heat were physical too.
I mean, come on.
Everybody adopted that mindset. Even the Bulls.
Exactly.
The Bulls were the same damn way.
Exactly. Even the New York Knicks of the 90s, the Patrick Ewings, when they had Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley, they were Xavier McDaniel. They were physical. They blueprinted off the Pistons. So it's just like that whole era was number physical. It was man. You had to be a man to come down low. And if they're knocking your ass, even the ref would look at you sometimes and be like, well, he told you not to come down there. Knock you on your ass. Like, that's how the game was played back then. So it's not only just the Pistons.
Yeah, if you go look at just go to Basketball Reference, man, and just look at the Pistons heyday, man, when they were on top of the game. Like, the Bulls could not beat them. Like, it's all there. These are the facts, you know. And you can look at it when the Pistons, especially during that 2 run, the Bulls, man, like they took so many L's, like during the regular season. I think they didn't beat them at all that year. until the playoffs. They were the only team to beat them twice in the playoffs. I think that was the first 2 times they beat them that year.
Yep.
When y'all talk about like how the media covers the Pistons, do you think that kind of translates to how they're looked at as far as all time? Because when you look which I just ran down as far as the teams they played, the Hall of Famers that they played, like they took down the Lakers in their prime still, or when they were still winning titles. They took down the Celtics. They took down the up and coming Bulls. Like those are like all great resume builders for any team to be worthy of a top 5, top 8 all time. But I don't hear the bad boys get talked about like that. Maybe Isaiah as a point guard for his individual position, but as a collective, no one ever say, man, bad boys Pistons, they were probably about top 8 all time team.
They're normally, from what list I've seen, when they list like top 10 NBA teams of all time, the Pistons is normally like that 9 or 10. They normally ranked in the top 10. They always rank there. But yeah, I mean, people always overlook them because they're not looked at as the media sweethearts. They're not pretty. They're not flashy enough. All you had Zeke and you had goons, pretty much. It was Zeke and goons.
And their run wasn't that long. When you look at Boston, the Lakers, Chicago, like their runs were longer than the Pistons' runs. So I think that's kind of what holds them back. If the Pistons
you mean like run by like championships or just being
being in the finals?
Being in the finals? Oh, okay.
So like if the Pistons went to like, let's say in 7 years they went to 5 finals, that's different. Then you got to elevate that team. Even if they would have still only won 2. You would elevate that team. But what was their run? B was like 3 years or 2 years?
They went to 3 straight finals. Yeah, 3 straight finals, won 2 of them, and they went to the East Finals.
Because they lost to the Lakers
finals in '91. Yeah, they lost to the Lakers in '88. Mm-hmm. Damn, which was crazy. That could have been our championship if that phantom call on Beerland Beer wouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm. And then we swept them in '89 and took care of Portland in '90. And yeah, and then we got swept in the Eastern Conference Finals in '91. So yeah. I mean, that's a lot of that's a run. That's definitely a run.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like for me, when the Lakers were dominating the Celtics, it was just those 2 teams, really, in my opinion. But for the Pistons to be like how B said, or like how they described in the documentary, so disruptive for all this shit. Like,
yeah,
all the NBA darlings did not like them and always didn't even want to go to Detroit. Like, you want to just skip that on the map.
They always do.
For them to be that dominant or to be that fearful without stars outside Isaiah, even though you could give credit to Joe Dumars as well. Like, to me, that says a lot.
But like Isaiah said, though, when they listed the top in '96, when they listed the top 50 greatest players in the NBA, Isaiah looking around and like, yeah, you see Magic with Worthy, you see Jordan and Scotty, you see all these other great players with their teammates. Where are my teammates? Like, he pretty much showing like, look, I'm great without Hall of Famer top 50 greatest players, and I still won back-to-back championships. So, holla at me. Like, he popping my collar that shit. Like, yo, holla at me. Like, for real. I love that shit.
Isiah Thomas I feel like he's disrespected. I feel like he's not given the proper credit and respect that he's due. They talk about Magic, they talk about Bird, they talk about Jordan. They don't talk about Isiah Thomas.
Nope.
And it needs to stop and it needs to change. This man beat all of them in their prime.
Exactly.
And he doesn't get credit for them. That Detroit team don't get credit for
Doug Daly, like one of the great coaches. Like,
right. None of them do. And it's insulting. And and I don't know why. I don't know. It's not like Isaiah isn't in the spotlight. He's on a nightly basketball program. He comes on First Take regularly, but he's not afraid to fight back, and he will correct you, and he will also make sure you get your facts right if you watch him on these programs when you try to paint a certain narrative, like he did on First Take today. Exactly. When Max tried to paint a picture about him. But Isaiah, man, like, I don't think people really know, man. Like, people really need to do their research and see how bad this dude was. Like, he is the truth, and he needs some respect.
Yeah, speaking of, I'm going to go back a little bit in the documentary. You're talking about respect. Does Doug Collins get the respect that he deserves as a coach of Michael Jordan?
That is a
Because
very good question, and I didn't realize the impact that he had. At least I didn't know at the time the impact that he had on Jordan's professional career. And I didn't even know they were that tight. But seeing them detail that out and the things that Doug Collins did when he took over, pointed that out to me because I had no idea. So I think he does need to get more respect. He just couldn't get them, like over the hump. Like he's their Mark Jackson, basically.
mm,
Look, and I always have this theory, man. Like, there's different types of coaches, and you have to have that type of coach at whatever part of the process you're in. And what Doug Collins was for the Bulls was extrapolating maximum potential from Michael Jordan. Oh, this is what you do good. I'm gonna put you in position to maximize what you do well. But as a team, as a championship level coach, that just wasn't what he was. He was the individual developmental type of coach. Okay, this is what you do. We're going to put you in positions to be great, to do this, to do that, to do this, to do that. And then we also saw kind of how Jerry Krause, and look, we got to give a lot of props to Jerry Krause too, because he was
yes.
fine. Even though the personal stuff I think is what got in the way of the business stuff. In terms of business, he was one of the best GMs at the time. And he pre-identified Tex Winter, went and got Phil Jackson, added him to the roster, and was grooming them, and let Doug Collins do his thing until the point where it was like, okay, we need to make this change. But I knew, just growing up in Chicago, obviously everybody I talked to about the documentary, I was like, look, I always knew about Jordan and the Bulls and all of that because I was born and raised in Chicago, but I was born in '84 and I didn't really start understanding basketball until '90 when he started winning. So everything prior, I had to go back as I got older. So I knew that Doug Collins and MJ was tight, but obviously I didn't know to the level that the documentary showed. But it makes sense. It makes sense that they were close because I think that was the first NBA coach that took elevated Jordan, helped elevate him. You know what I'm saying? Ran plays for him. They didn't take the ball out of his hand like Dean Smith did and stuff like that. Like, hey, here you go. We're going to eat. We're going to live and die through you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that any young player, especially when a guy as maniacal as Michael Jordan and you just unleash him, that's what Doug Collins did. He just unleashed MJ.
When you talk about Jerry Krause and how he put this team together, the way he treated Doug Collins, where he put Phil Jackson there to learn from the guy that he wanted Doug to learn from as far as the triangle offense. I forgot the guy's name. Yeah. Do you feel like that was kind of snakish, even though it worked out, obviously, because it became the blueprint for multiple franchises' title runs, but it felt like he kind of he snaked his way into the position.
Nah, it's snakish if you hire him without Doug Collins knowing and saying, okay, this guy's going to be on your bench starting Monday. Phil Jackson interviewed. Doug Collins liked him enough to add him to the roster. You know what I'm saying? Because here's the thing. When you're talking head coach and GM, we have to have a working relationship. And if I'm the GM and I tell you, hey, look, there's this assistant coach that I think will do really well. He does X, Y, Z, this, that, and the third. As a head coach, you got to listen to me. You know what I'm saying? If we bring in that assistant coach for an interview and he does really well, we got to add him. You know what I'm saying? If personalities, philosophies, all of that stuff mesh, we got to add them. It's just because it's best for the organization overall. So I don't think it was snaked. It was done right in Doug Collins' face. Doug Collins agreed to it.
But when you hear Krause say, like, I was cool with Phil, the first time he interviewed, he dressed like a hippie and he didn't get the job. So I called him again and I told him exactly what to say, how to talk to dude, what to dress like. Like, that's kind of under false pretenses, is it not?
It's not. It's not, because at the end of the day, when you identify talent, you want talent. And if it doesn't go right the first time, you coach that talent to get in the second time. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, if Jerry Krause would identify Phil Jackson and just put him on the bench, that's a problem.
What do you think about it, Ken?
Yeah, I don't think it was shady. I think it felt like they kind of made it seem that way in the documentary. But they also showed that Tex and Phil were trying to bring this system to the Bulls, and he didn't want to listen, and he didn't want to adapt. And good coaches, good leaders, you listen to your people, and then you bring all that stuff in, and you utilize it, that's best suited for the team. And they don't. I mean, can you fault them because they had gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals? But at the same time, he should have been more open to that. Like Steve Kerr, for example, if we go to the Golden State Warriors, they never would have won the title that first year if Steve Kerr didn't listen to some video guy that came in with the depth lineup. That's how the depth lineup was invented, because Steve Kerr was trying to match them size for size. And then with small ball, completely changed everything. But if Steve Kerr was stubborn like Doug Collins, then, it's possible, more than likely, highly probable, that they don't even win that title because Jordan was on another level that year. I mean, not Jordan, but LeBron was on another level that year. That's not a Freudian slip, by the way. But yeah, he was stubborn, man, and he needed to kind of be more receptive to those new ideas.
You know what it was, Ken? Doug Collins was still a basketball player at heart and not truly a coach yet. That's the reason why on the sidelines he was sweat like he was playing in the game. That's why he was so animated, because young coaches bring that energy, and that's what he had. And the way he saw it as a player is how he coached, which is why he unleashed Michael. He didn't have an overview perspective yet.
Which is true, but if you look at the teams, if you look at the winning teams that were winning championships, the Celtics played as a team. The Lakers played as a team. And, they had the pieces around it to do that. Michael Jordan was playing as Michael Jordan. So if Tex Winters and Phil Jackson were bringing this element to it that would allow them to play as a team, then why not? And
because from Doug Collins' perspective, Pippen wasn't ready to take that jump. Horace Grant, all of the rest of the guys were just guys. They weren't ready yet. They weren't ready. They weren't ready to. All right, let's let's give them even more responsibility on the basketball court. They just weren't at that position. So I understand to a degree Doug Collins' apprehensiveness. Hey, we got MJ. What are you talking about? Just give him the rock. Move the hell out the way. But at the same time, again, I just think it was a perfect storm of a lot of things. Young coach, you had literally a young bull on the team. You had other young pieces that weren't ready to take those next steps right at that point. It's just a lot of stuff. And I think that's why eventually they went to Phil Jackson. And I think even Doug Collins knew. And he didn't want to add no gas to the fire, but he was like, he had a sense. And the reason why he had a sense is because Phil Jackson and Tex Winter was talking about the entire team. And yeah, you can get to the next dance, but if you don't get to the last dance, what are we playing for?
And MJ didn't fight for him either, did he?
Huh?
I say MJ didn't fight for Doug Collins either, did he?
Well, they didn't. We don't know that. We don't know if he had a separate conversation.
He just said he was pissed about it. That was it. But I mean,
and he also said he wasn't a fan of Phil at first. He was like, "Look, we go from a coach that puts the ball in my hand to a coach that wants to take the ball out of my hand. How do you think MJ gonna feel?"
Think about how that one move changed. Everything. Everything.
Basketball.
Yeah, it's incredible, all because of this triangle offense, but it created the point forward, which, like, if LeBron is a talent, but when I saw the creation of the point forward and that was obviously magic, but you got the point forward, you got trusting my teammates, huh?
But Magic was a point guard. There's a difference.
True. Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. I just think like that moment when Michael Jordan decided to trust the teammates, that John Paxson game, I remember that shit. Because I remember when he was passing balls, like, he's not going to keep hitting these shots. Because I didn't see any of his teammates really hit shots consistently like that, because it was always fucking Jordan. So I was like, at some point, he's going to start missing again. And he just never missed. And Jordan became such a different player when he started trusting his teammates. And what that also did was it just changed the mentality of the league as well, because now all of a sudden it became about making my teammates better and trusting my teammates, when you saw the hero ball thing wasn't working. And a lot of players that came after him started to adopt that mindset as well.
Yeah, I was gonna ask y'all, as far as like, I think that was probably the best breakdown of the triangle I've ever seen, especially for like, it felt like it was just like a minute long explanation of what it is, how does it look like, and how to execute it. Did that make y'all rethink about the triangle, as far as like, how come it hasn't been well executed nowadays? Because I know Phil tried to bring that to the Knicks, that didn't work. Is it superstar dependent? Like, you need a Jordan, you need a Kobe, a Shaq?
No, because the triangle was designed so that way you don't have to have superstars. First and foremost, the reason why it doesn't work now is because the game is more fast-paced and you take a lot quicker shots without ball movement. Look at the NBA now, right? Look at the scoring, right? I don't know if you guys are paying attention to a lot of the scores. They were winning 84-70. Teams now score that in 3 quarters because they get up way more attempts. The pace of the game is so much faster that you can't just come down, walk the ball up, set up your offense. That's just not how basketball is played now. It's just at a way faster pace. Now, there are teams that still utilize aspects of the triangle. Golden State still utilizes aspects of the triangle, but nobody's ever, from like modern era now, they're not going to run it full time.
Yeah.
It makes sense to the skill set of what these basketball players are bringing to the court.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it took them a year to get it. They said it took them a year to even understand how to fully utilize it themselves. And I also think it's a complicated offense from everything that I've heard the players say, that it's tough for them to pick up and execute. So you have to have high IQ players also to help run it.
Yeah, I'm just getting blown away by this documentary. I really like everything they discuss. Again, people, you mentioned the last time we talked about it, how they go back and forth timeline-wise to explain how this affected this, or how we got this mentality in the beginning. It's just been a brilliant documentary, and it's made me think about. Obviously, I'm live tweeting when I'm watching it. A lot of people are saying, like, this is why he's the GOAT. This is why you should did that LeBron James conversation as the GOAT. Do y'all agree with that, or is this more about, like, we already know this information and it doesn't really affect how I think now?
Nah, I definitely think it's affecting how people think now. And there's a couple of things that I need to correct too. I'm gonna say it after my soliloquy. But I think what we're able to truly see, and what separates Jordan from any player to ever play the game, I think the next closest person is Russell Westbrook, is the mentality and the ferocity in which you attack each moment in the game. You know what I'm saying? And watching him, you know what I'm saying? I was a kid when I watched MJ play. I didn't necessarily understand the psyche of what I was witnessing. I saw the moves, I saw the things that he was doing, and I went and I practiced them, and I added those things to my game. But because we didn't live in a social media era, because we didn't have access like this back in the 80s and 90s, kids would have never known. You know what I'm saying? It was funny because I was talking to my brother, and, you know, we played a lot of basketball growing up. And oftentimes, you know, whenever I would pull up to a court, I'd always think I was the best until you start watching a couple of guys and you're like, oh, well, shit, damn, he's nice. He's super nice. I might have to do X, Y, Z. But just think about it from Jordan's mentality. He never walked onto to any competition, cards, golf, basketball. It don't matter. If it's me versus something, I'm the best. I'm gonna beat you. Just like, so just to have that mentality, that's what separates Jordan from everybody. And the thing that I wanted to correct, how we always say if we had a fantasy draft of all of the NBA legends, how I would take Magic first, I would take MJ first. I would take MJ first. Because look, like the whole conversation, LeBron versus MJ, I still believe as an overall basketball player, LeBron has eclipsed everybody. Physicality, IQ, passing, defense, blocking, steals, all of that type of stuff. To me, there's certain things that LeBron does better than MJ. But
on-ball defender?
Huh?
As an all-ball, like on-the-ball defender?
Very close. I think LeBron is a better off-ball defender than MJ was on-ball. But very close, especially in their primes. But I think the thing that separates them, when MJ says that there's no I in team, but there's an I in win. When you look at LeBron and he gets teams close to winning, I'm never scared about LeBron closing it out, right? Like I'm always weary, like, okay, what's gonna happen? With MJ, like you just had this sense of confidence watching. He's gonna make this shot. He's going to do this. Like he could always overcome. And I think that that's what separates LeBron from MJ. LeBron doesn't always overcome. He's not that dominant figure that's like, no matter what you do, no matter if you got Kawhi, Tim Duncan, all of these guys, like he's still going to overcome that. LeBron doesn't always do that. LeBron now, he's overcome a lot. And that's the reason why he's in the conversation with MJ. But when you just compare those two guys, MJ's going to win. LeBron's not. LeBron's going to play the right way. That's the difference.
This is a good marketing tool for MJ, for a lot of young people that engage in
buy the shoes and don't even know what the hell it is.
Huh?
I was going to mention.
It's a great marketing tool for MJ because all of these kids buy the shoes, but they don't understand the reason why they buy the shoes.
Well, if you look at the documentary, they make sure they show you every shoe that he was wearing, like Jordan shoe during the time, like it's like off to the side, but you can see like, oh, those are the ones, those are the six, yeah.
Because when people watch basketball, and a lot of people even now still probably haven't seen Jordan play, but the story they're telling, the things that they're picking out, which are true and highlighting, will influence decision making. For them to tell the story of Jordan telling Doug Coughlin, I'm not going to let you lose your first game as a coach. That adds to the lore of MJ. So there are all these little things that speaks to the mental side of Jordan that he just goes out and do because he's just psychotic that way. With LeBron, like when people watch the game and they see him play, they see this extremely talented guy that is a extremely great player and probably is more than likely a better player overall than Jordan. But Jordan had a certain dogma about him, this mythical essence to him that, supersedes everything. Going 6-0, finding reasons, telling the reporters, I took care of you, and I'm going to take care of you tonight. Those things, we don't have those stories of LeBron. And of course, LeBron has lost finals. So Jordan was just made to be like a god among us. Honestly. Like to being the only guy in his family that's 6'6", that's over 6 feet. The only one out of his family to go through the things that he went through. He was born and breeded for this. And there's no other way to put it. And that's what this is doing for me. I watched it. I'm just and lived through it. And sometimes that's what. And then it's not LeBron that I think about. You know who else I'm thinking about? I look at certain mannerisms that Jordan do. I think about Kobe.
I think about that too.
And as good as Kobe was, he still is not as psychotic as Jordan was. I look at KD. KD could have been the closest thing to him, but he doesn't have this as well. There's just something about this guy and his will to win that you just cannot create.
It's upstairs, Ken. Upstairs is what separates MJ from every other person. And we're not gonna see that. Like,
you don't think we'll ever see that again from a player?
I asked myself that question because would Jordan have lost a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors? No.
Nope.
With Westbrook, absolutely not. He would have found a way to win that game. That's the difference between MJ and Kevin Durant and LeBron and all these other players.
He ain't gonna lose.
He will find not a 3-1 lead, and Kobe lost a 3-1 lead. MJ wouldn't have lost that. MJ wouldn't have quit on his team in that game 7 to prove a point like Kobe did. It's just,
I just think that you keep on saying with the mythology or whatever. I just think that it's more just facts, like, and it's a confidence, but it's a fact because like when he went up to Doug Collins and said, "Bruh, they were down in the fourth quarter," I think and then Doug said he scored the last 10, but before he did that, he's looking at his coach and saying, "Bruh, I got you. Don't even worry about it." He gave him a cup of water and said, "Chill the fuck out." Like he went and executed. Like who like I don't know. A guy like y'all said, like that talented, that can do that, and just say things, and they just happen. That game where I'm sure they're gonna get to it when he was playing against the Portland Trailblazers, and he just shooting all these threes, and people saying he can't really shoot threes like that, and it's just like anything you say he can't do, he's gonna do it, or he'll even tell you himself before you said he can't do it.
And I know I'm going a little bit ahead in the documentary. So, over here at Dead End Sports, man, we have a plug. The source will be named unnamed. But going a little bit forward into the documentary, I think out of everything that I've seen so far, BJ Armstrong explains this, and I think this puts it into a window that we can kind of understand what greatness means. And BJ said, once MJ figured out how to play a game within the game, the basketball game was already too easy. He was playing at an elevated level, meaning that Jordan was finding ways on how to impact tempo, how to control everything that's happening in the game. It wasn't just scoring anymore. It's kind of like Neo reading the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
That with great players now. LeBron has that. There's times that LeBron controls the entire game. But you know what the difference is? Is that when, even though you're controlling the entire game, everything's going and you feel everything that's happening, there's still going to come, or sometimes there's going to come a point in time you still may be down for. You know what I'm saying? With a minute and a half to go, what do you do? And in that, every player that we see, they fold under that pressure. Or if they don't fold in that pressure, they're not great enough to get you to that point. Kyrie, right? We know, to me, one of the clutchest players I've ever seen play the game. But he can't get you to that point of that clutch moment. He can execute in the clutch moment, but he can't get you to that moment. LeBron can get you to that moment. Oftentimes doesn't make the individual play to overcome everything that happened in the game. He's gonna try to play the right way. KD, not always that clutch. When the chips are stacked against him, he falters. You know what I'm saying? Name me another player. Clyde isn't that guy. Charles Barkley wasn't that guy. There has not been another player outside of MJ to be able to overcome that. There just hasn't.
To overcome what? I'm sorry, FIFO.
I was just saying, like, I was saying how, we've been lucky over here at Dead Sports to see a little bit more than what ESPN has been able to put out in the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But when BJ Armstrong talked about MJ just playing at a different level and being able to play games within the game, and just kind of, I said it was like Neo watching the Matrix.
Yeah.
And there's other players that we've seen since MJ play at that level. We've seen LeBron control every aspect of the game. But the difference is that players that are clutch enough to make that last shot, like Kyrie or Dame, aren't always good enough to get you to that clutch moment, right? Like controlling the entire game to get you to that moment and then overcome that, right? Like somebody's always devoid of something. Like LeBron can get you to that point and he's going to make the right basketball play, but he doesn't take it upon himself to ensure we're not going to lose.
Yeah.
The only person that's been able to do that is MJ. To get you to that point and then say, hey, everybody move the hell out of the way, just give me the ball, and we're not going to lose.
I think Kobe kind of picked up on that a little bit too, maybe?
Close, but it still wasn't at MJ's level.
Mm-hmm.
I put it to you like this. Kobe had the fearlessness that MJ had, but he didn't have the same type of clutch ability that MJ had.
And I want to say, didn't Phil Jackson kind of talked about that in his book? I never read his book yet or anything, but I thought Phil Jackson touched on that before about comparing them two, the difference between coaching, Kobe and MJ or whatever.
Damn, I read that book and I can't remember. There was
an excerpt in there. I forgot what his exact words were, but it was something like, "Yeah, MJ's better," pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, the stats bear that out too. But MJ never had a Shaq. Shit. But yeah, man, like that's why as a person that grew up watching it and not liking it, by the way, I always want to make sure I put that in mind because he beat all my favorite players and teams. But when I see guys that could come close, when I see like Kevin Durant, for instance, that can score at will, from anywhere on the court. But when I see him go to the line and miss 2 free throws, when he was with OKC, when I see that, when I see him shoot poorly in a game 7 and in multiple games to lose a 3-1 lead and then go to the other team, those are the things that disappoint me as an old school guy, watching this. And that's why I become frustrated with LeBron. That's why I and a lot of people say Dwayne Wade's 2006 was the closest thing you'll see to Jordan, ever, because it was true. It was a representation, but he only did that once, So will there be another guy? I don't know. I do know that a lot of people are quiet. Like LeBron has been extremely quiet. I haven't seen him say anything. So AD, I haven't seen. Well, he don't talk a lot either. But I'm wondering, as the NBA is in a recess right now and they're watching this, who is going to come out of this even more motivated than before? Because it
has to be LeBron, because he's the only guy in the conversation with Mike, and he knows that.
But is the conversation though, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the only player that you can even put in the same plateau as Michael Jordan.
I think that's greatness within itself, Nick. Like, even though like old heads like me is gonna push back and probably say no, or you have guys on J-Force that looks beyond just the 6-0 record. But there has been no other player in history to ever challenge MJ for that title. People don't really take that into consideration the way that I do, but that alone is an incredible accomplishment. And we're talking about Kobe existed.
That's what I'm asking, like, because I think, I don't know if me and B agreed on this point, but B, you could correct me, but I've always talked about, like, why do people overstep over Kobe and just say it's just MJ and LeBron?
Couple reasons. I'll answer them right now. Kobe said, without MJ, there would be no me. All of the other greatest players in NBA history have all had a unique game. Kobe was the first not to. He was a carbon copy of MJ. Am I lying?
Nope.
Mostly MJ, but he stole a lot of other people's moves too.
Who?
Like, he trained with Hakeem.
No, that's not the same. But go ahead.
When he got older and he said, "I need to go on the post," that's what he did.
But everything that Kobe did outside of young Kobe's crossover, which was AI, right? Like everything outside of that was MJ. He said, okay, this is what it means to be the greatest. I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna be exactly that. He wasn't a unique player, right? In terms of play style. His play style was MJ 2.0, which, people can hold that against him or not against him. It is what it is. He's the only NBA superstar to not have his own unique game. Number 2, he wasn't always the man on his team. Michael Jordan, from the moment he stepped on the Chicago Bulls basketball court, he was the man. LeBron, from the moment he stepped on the NBA basketball court, he was the man. Kobe wasn't.
What about Magic?
Magic was the man.
When he first got to the league, he was the man on the Lakers.
Yeah.
Over Kareem.
Bruh, look, if it wasn't for Magic, they wouldn't have won that championship.
Rookie year, played all 5 positions because Kareem was out with injury.
He was the man. And he just
after coming out from winning the NCAA championship the year before. And then you just throw him into the Wolves and he wins the championship playing all 5 positions.
He was the man. Those 2 things to me hold Kobe back.
You know, when I look at Anthony Davis, there's another guy that has all that talent but don't have the mentality. And I remember when, you know, they were trying to push and market Anthony Davis as the next guy. It was funny because when I think Isiah was talking about MJ and I think Magic, they were talking about how it was clear to them that MJ was the guy they wanted to win, but they wanted to make sure that he did win so they would be overshadowed or something along those lines. That's just an aside. To get back to what FIFA was saying, it's not just the game that he stole from Mike. It was the way he walked. It was the way he talked. It was the way he stuck his tongue out. It was the way he celebrated. It was every single thing that he stole. And growing up, when Kobe came on the scene, as a young fan of the NBA and watching that and watching him not be original, I held that against him, and I know some other people around me held that against him as well. It wasn't a knock on his talent or what he was able to do, but we were like, oh man, you just out here trying to be like MJ. It was just like, it was hard to respect for me.
Really? I understand exactly what y'all saying, and I get it. It's just, I don't know. I guess I care about more results than like the method to the madness. But I do understand.
I like what Kobe said about Jordan though. They keep showing this clip. I think when he was on the Knuckleheads podcast, when it was his first time facing off against Jordan, and Kobe was like, they were like, "Oh, you gonna get Jordan?" He was like, "All right, cool. Like I want to see what Jordan is about. Like y'all keep hailing him as like the Black Jesus and stuff. Like I've been a fan watching him my whole life. I want to see what the smoke is about. So I think that's dope as a competitor.
Yeah, I do too. But the results, Nick, were not all his until Shaq left, and that goes into one of other Nick's FIFO's points. It was Shaq. So,
but it wasn't just Shaq though.
If you look at Shaq numbers in those finals, I mean, granted, in the 2000 finals when Shaq fouled out in game 1, I think it was game 1 or game 2. When Kobe was, doing this, like telling him to calm down because Kobe kind of took over, after Shaq fouled out. But if you look at Shaq's numbers, that was clearly Shaq. I mean, the team ran through Shaq.
Kobe was pipping, bro.
It was an inside-out game. It wasn't an outside.
It wasn't an outside-in game. Yeah. Shaq was clearly putting that team on his shoulders, man. Like during that three-peat, the three-peat Lakers.
And that's why, I mean, it's documented. He said it. Everybody said it. It's reported everywhere. That's why, he wanted to leave, because people like me and everybody alike, while we'll give Kobe credit for coming through, we all knew that it was all Shaq. Everybody said it was all Shaq.
He got the 3 final MVPs for a reason.
Yeah. Kobe was a fan favorite, but he wasn't a man the way back then, the way he eventually became. Which is why Kobe
wanted Shaq to work just as hard as him, so they could have won like about 8-9 of them. You know what I'm saying? Like we knew Shaq was that was Shaq's team, man. Shaq was a scary figure down that block, man, that paint.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to touch on one more thing to kind of wrap it up, but like Ken, I think you mentioned earlier as far as like MJ was getting for his last year that KD type of treatment as far as where are you going? Are you retiring? Are you going to lead the Bulls? What's the case? I'm watching his composure throughout all those questions, and he's just the same type of guy, mellow, He said, I'm going to give you the same answer that I'm giving you guys this whole season, even beforehand in the summer. Have we ever seen a superstar like nowadays? We saw Dennis Rodman blow up at the media during the same time too, with similar questions as far as his future and his role on the team. Have we ever seen another guy at that level, superstar level, have that same composure?
You gotta think. This got to come into play though, Nick. Like media today. I mean, media back then is nowhere near what it is today. I think it would have been interesting to see how Jordan would have handled social media. Like if Jordan was playing right now in his prime, and him going through the Chicago Bulls like what they going through now in this day and era, I don't. He probably would have had, because you got more voices. You got more voices, more outlets, more voices, more outlets.
You got more cameras. It's not just the voices.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Just media in general. You got so much. The
stuff that MJ was doing when there were no cameras.
Right.
He went to Atlantic City and all of this type of stuff and all of this. The stuff that he got scrutinized later would have got scrutinized instantly.
Yeah.
It's 2 a.m. Why MJ at the casino? On social media. And his agent would have been hitting him up right there, like 5 minutes into him walking into that casino.
Yes.
He didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah. That's why it was easier to keep your composure back then, when you didn't have all the different types of medias just on you. So
that happened in the dark would stay in the dark for the most part.
Yeah.
At least the details wouldn't come out.
Yeah. And even with that shit now, with the media we have now, even some of the details are starting to come out 30 years later. You know what I'm saying? So just imagine if that shit was amplified back then. Yep. The way them fools was wilding out back then.
I'll put it to you like this. Just think about it. We live in an age now where players find out that they get traded or cut on social media. Before their agent could get to them, before the team could talk to them, they find out on social media, on their Twitter.
Yeah.
I would say, the only person I can think of is LeBron. I mean, he's a master at the media and controlling the narrative and not giving people more ammo to write more stories. KD obviously exploded. We've seen, at times. But before this new version of KD, I thought he was really good at it as well. But Oklahoma protected them a lot. From themselves. So the media in that city controlled a lot of assets that was going on at the time. But I will say this.
Wait, what about D-Wade? I think I've seen D-Wade handle himself very well.
Yeah. But he's never been a guy that had a lot of cameras like in his face until like the Heatles moment. Maybe a little bit after 2006 when they won, but that was it. But I'll say that I'll save this thought for, I don't know, I'll say it now and I'll revisit it. This documentary, Jordan's decision to do this documentary, he saw that LeBron was threatening his legacy. This release is him pulling that back and getting more control of being the GOAT. Because he was losing it for a minute.
Pulling the receipts. He wanted to pull the receipts out.
Yep. He wanted to let everybody know. It's based, because think about it like this, right?
Yeah.
We see LeBron on the tail end of his career. So he only has so much more track left to run. Mm-hmm. So he know that his odds of winning the championship are slim to catch him. So because of that, to drop this now in those receipts, you can change a lot of people's thoughts on this instantly, especially young cats that never seen this guy. It's brilliant.
No, 100%. And I think the timing, even with Corona, is even crazier because you got guys like Trae Young that, idolized Kobe and understood that, Kobe took a lot from MJ and this, that, and the third. And, even Trae says, man, after watching this, I got to put MJ first. You know what I'm saying? So he's not going to be the only young star that didn't watch MJ, but obviously knows the history of MJ to watch this and be like, okay, yeah, MJ's the greatest. He's not going to be the only one. And then what that's going to do is that's going to impact other draft classes, other young players. So for the next I would say 5 to 6 draft class, they're gonna know MJ was the guy.
He's dead in the conversation, man. It's brilliant. He's winning again off the court, off the court. The one person that threatened him was LeBron, and without even taking a step on the court, is about to win this.
Because think about this, what would you think? Say if the Rona didn't get crazy and we still have NBA playoffs and everything, and say LeBron won the championship this year, what do you think? What would you think people, the media, everybody would be saying then if LeBron wins the championship?
He better than MJ.
Yeah, they would say he won for 3 different franchises. He was the best player in all those championship runs. He's ran the league for what, damn near 20 years now. Like, they would say he's the GOAT.
You saying before or after this documentary?
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, like, so say like if
LeBron won.
The documentary never came out of LeBron won?
Well, no. So the documentary was scheduled to come out like a little bit after the finals, around the NBA finals.
Okay.
So say LeBron, they won the championship. Lakers won. Bam. LeBron got his 4th ring or whatever as a Western Conference player. And, you know, like, what do you think the narrative would have been from the media as this Jordan documentary is coming on?
Here's the thing. I think that a lot of what's happening would have still happened, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think the difference is that we would have just shifted the conversation of LeBron is the best to do it as long as he's done it. Nobody was able to do what he's doing at the year he's doing it, right? At the level that he's doing it. Yeah, MJ's the overall GOAT, but shit, how did I just 36? LeBron's gonna be 36 this year. Who at 35, 36 is doing what LeBron's doing? So I think that if LeBron was to win and then this documentary come out a little later, LeBron would be able to maintain the margin. You know what I'm saying? Of the distance between him and MJ. It wouldn't have widened. Right now, because LeBron is not playing, out of sight, out of mind, you know how the brain works. MJ is winning.
It's widening the margin.
That margin to the point where it's like LeBron can't do nothing about it. Even if he wins the championship now, the damage to LeBron's legacy through this documentary has been done.
Yep.
The young people that heralded LeBron as the greatest, Kobe as the second greatest, or vice versa, however they want to see it, they're gonna overwhelmingly put MJ now there. And
there's even dudes Ken age that still think LeBron is the greatest, and we've seen on Twitter all the time that he says that LeBron is the GOAT no matter what. He is not giving that GOAT status to MJ.
Yeah, some people are gonna be like that.
Huh?
Some people are gonna be like that. Some people are still gonna put MJ there. I mean, LeBron.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like I said, I think in terms of checking abilities, right? Like if we were going through NBA 2K, all these abilities, LeBron has higher ratings in certain abilities that MJ does. I think overall he's the greatest skillful player and athletically freakish player to ever play the game. But he's not maniacal. That's the difference.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Jordan crazy, man.
He's literally crazy. Like, and I know I'm fast forwarding a little bit in the.
Well, they said don't be spoiling anything in the chat, people.
Yeah, don't spoil it, people, because we got the luxury, baby. We got the luxury. Don't spoil it, people.
I'm not spoiling, but MJ one time when they was on the airplane, you know, him and all of the black players would be in the back of the airplane, and they would be playing cards for, you know, $1,000, $10,000 a hand and stuff like that.
Right.
And all of the white players, Will Purdue, Steve Kerr, they would play dollar games in the front of the airplane. And, you know, MJ came to the front, he's like, hey, what y'all doing? And everybody looking at MJ like, we doing what y'all doing, but we playing for $1. He's like, and one of them was like, well, why do you want to play over here? And he says, because I want to be able to say that I got your dollar in my pocket. That's just how he is, bro.
Yeah.
LeBron ain't like that. LeBron will still be chilling in the back with the homies.
Yeah, Jordan is crazy, man. Jordan is nuts.
Yeah.
LeBron will play to see who's gonna be in his new Space Jam movie. He'll be playing for roles. But I don't know. I'm loving the conversation. I'm loving this is as far as going through this Corona shit. this is probably like every Sunday is now highly anticipated. Like I love that we have we've gone up to episode 4, so we have 3 more weeks left.
Yeah. Episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 more weeks left. And hopefully we'll even get more discussions out of it. But yeah, this walk down memory lane is just beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just tired of the whole MJ and LeBron GOAT conversation. It's just so tiresome now at this point. It's like, just enjoy both of them for both of their eras. They're not going to play each other. We're not going to see no 2016 Cavs versus the 91 Bulls. I'm sick of this, the GOAT conversation. I'm sick of it.
It's so crazy because I don't watch Undisputed, but I do check like the rundown every day.
Yeah.
Since this thing has dropped, they found a way to bring LeBron into every single time, man. Like they found a way to. It's ridiculous, man.
It is. It's really ridiculous. I mean, and just on that and on Twitter, it's just like we really still arguing this, y'all. Like, stop.
Yeah. To me, again, like this documentary, it just cemented for me that nobody's gonna be as crazy as MJ was, and the way that culture and society is now, it's not gonna breed nobody else like that. And like I said earlier, I think Russell Westbrook is the only person that I see that plays with that level of anger and ferocity.
No days off. No days off. The way they talk about Jordan, no days off, man. I wish players had that mentality. Like, there's somebody that's never seen me play ball before that's coming to see me play, and I'm making sure I'm putting on the show.
Like, I just pulled it up today. These fools, one of their topics, how will LeBron have fared against the bad boy Pistons? What? Like,
LeBron would be just fine. LeBron would be all right. LeBron would handle he would be okay. Because people forget, man, like, okay, yeah, you can be physical. You tell me you giving someone that's 6'8", about 270, 280 the range to knock you on your ass? I think LeBron would be all right in that sense. I mean, come on, y'all. Like, for people to say that LeBron wouldn't make it or he wouldn't know how to handle the Pistons, I think if you turn a motherfucker into a bully like with that size, he would be just fine.
And B, I'm 100% with you. That's asinine. Because here's the thing. So
right.
Me and one of my partners, we was talking.
You look this up.
And I was telling them, like, you know, there's generational guys that I think could play in any era, right? And I think that LeBron, his mentality is shaped based off of the culture and the era he came up in. If you transplant him earlier on and he understands that level of physicality is part of basketball and he has that physical body, what do you think is going to happen? He's going to play that style of basketball.
Right, exactly. Dude, that is scary, you giving a 6'8", 270, 280 dude a muscle, the free range to be as physical as you want to be.
I could go drop my shoulder and dunk right through you. Like
LeBron would be just fine. He would be just fine in 1989.
Do you think Pippen would have been able to slow him down, even though Magic was on the tail of his career? Because that was his last season when the Bulls beat him. But remember how Pippen picked up Magic half court? Would he be able to do the same thing against LeBron?
Magic at that point was nowhere as athletic, as fast as Magic. I mean, yeah, I could have guarded that old Magic full court at Pippen's age. You know what I'm saying? At Pippen's age and size.
That's why they ran through him like that.
Yeah, and LeBron would have been like, it would have definitely been a moment where they looked over like, Coach, what the fuck? Like, can you imagine if Kevin Durant was morphing back to 1984?
Man,
what he's doing? They'd have been looking at Coach like, what the fuck is this, Coach? Like,
but can't
now I'm not saying that like other players wouldn't be busting Kevin Durant's ass because they were skillful enough to do that. Mm-hmm. But let's act like, stop saying that these freak of nature athletes that we seeing now wouldn't handle the 80s and, you know, the old school joints, man. Like, come on. Especially if you're giving them free range to get physical. Can you imagine Dwight Howard? You give Dwight Howard the free range to throw one of them elbows at somebody? Come on. Like,
imagine Shaq. Shaq would have been more dominant back then than he was now.
He would have been Wilt.
Yep.
Oh, man, I would love my dad to be here saying, because he would have disagreed. He would disagree with the Wilt part. But he would have said, my dad would have said Wilt would have definitely got his, but Shaq would have got his too. Like, it wouldn't have been like no
Yeah, one-sided.
Yeah, it wouldn't been one-sided, but it definitely been a battle. It definitely been a battle.
To answer your question, Ken, would Scottie Pippen hinder LeBron James? And I think the answer is yes. I don't think he would have shut him down just because
Pippen's smart. He's a smart defender. He's a smart
defender. Quick, fast, long. But Pippen never had the physicality LeBron had. So LeBron can still use that to his advantage. And the fact that the reason why I say LeBron is so unstoppable is like a point guard. I always talk about point guards. It doesn't matter if I score 5 points in a game. I could still have been a very dominant point guard scoring 5 points. LeBron has that ability where, yeah, you can hold them to an unfavorable shooting percentage. But what did he do to impact that game?
Yeah.
On a holistic level. And I don't think nobody in the history of basketball would have been able to slow down LeBron to the point where you made him a non-factor overall. LeBron was going to impact the game somehow, some way.
Yeah, last thing I'll say, I think, oh, my bad. Yeah, last thing I'll say is that Boston used to get in LeBron's head a lot. Same way that Detroit got in MJ's head and Pippen's head and everybody's head. You know, he had to get past the bullies. And
yeah, Boston caused LeBron to leave.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that sorry ass organization that got Antoine Jameson instead of Amari Stoudemire.
Right,
yeah, that's true too.
I don't want to keep
a prime Amari Stoudemire.
Right.
I don't want to keep prolonging the conversation, but that was the same point that I made to my homie as well. Like, you know, because he was trying to hold the fact that LeBron has jumped around so much and he thinks it's better for players to stay in one place. But I said, look, man, in all honesty, that first Cleveland run, that was the organization's fault why LeBron left. Because you didn't build a winner around him. LeBron proved that you should build around me the second year. Just like Jerry Krause started to do. They didn't do that. They didn't do that to the best of their ability, so LeBron had to go elsewhere to learn how to win. See, because think about it. MJ learned how to win through constant progression, constant coaching, constant
failures.
You know, LeBron didn't have that. LeBron literally had to jump ship to go to an organization that had championship aspirations, championship knowledge, not only from the guy up top, but D-Wade. You know what I'm saying? Like MJ had the luxury of having a GM that was so in tune that said, let me go get him Pippen. Let me go get Horace. Let me go get Tex Winter. Let me go get Phil Jackson. Let me fire this coach and bring in. You know what I'm saying? Like that continual progression is what allowed MJ to grow in one organization where LeBron didn't have that.
Yeah, I agree. That's all I got for the topics and stuff. But yeah, I can't wait for the next episodes.
Dog, hey Ken, when they was talking about could LeBron, you know, handle the Pistons? You know who was the heaviest player on that team, the weight wise?
Who?
Rick Mahorn.
Actually, with Bill Laimbeer, but the weight was 245 pounds, dude. That was the heaviest. That was the heaviest person on the Pistons that 1988-89 roster. The heaviest. Bill Laimbeer was 6'11" and 245. Rick Mahorn was 6'10" and 240.
Hey, Mr. King, 80-50. Magic was not still in his prime. He was still very, very good. So you can finish second in MVP in voting, but not be in your prime.
What are you talking about?
Somebody said Magic was still in his prime in '91. He wasn't in his prime. He wasn't in his prime. He retired the year after.
Right.
I mean, it was for obvious reasons.
I'll say Jordan did too. Jordan retired a lot too.
Yeah, nah. But oh well. Anyway, we appreciate you guys showing up, man. We're gonna get out of here. We got some other stuff to do later on this evening, so we'll catch you guys next time. We out. Peace.
Peace.